Wow. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. It's episode 108 of Keepin It Rio. And today I have got a heavy hitter in the house. I'd like to welcome to the program the one and only Mr. Eric Oberempt. Eric, welcome to Keepin It Rio, my friend. How you doing today?
I am doing wonderful. Thanks for having me, Chuck. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. I was lucky enough to do your show at RoofCon last year, and this has
That
been
was
on
fun.
my list ever since. So we're going to have us a blast today. Where are you coming at us from today in the United States? I'm guessing you're in the United States at least. Maybe not.
For another week. I am. Yeah. But no, I'm in Houston, north of Houston area, so I'm home right now. So that's nice. I've been home for almost a week. So
Damn, we better get that schedule fired back up.
well, we're heading up to Dallas next week for IRE. So yeah.
Yeah, me too. It's going to be a good time. I always love going to those events and just getting out and seeing people and having a couple days of fun. I have a feeling we're all going to be pretty damn busy this year with the way the weather's treated us here recently. So maybe a couple days of reprieve and just getting out and just enjoying ourselves will be just what the doctor ordered, I think. So let me, we'll just get right into it. Obviously, you've been in the industry for a long time. I talked to you before you did your keynote at RoofCon, and I wish I would have been like the first guest afterwards because your story was incredible. And I'm not going to lie, I didn't really know it that well. So the first thing I want to say to you is props for even being here, my friend, because
thank you.
That's an accomplishment, dude. There's a lot of shit that goes on in life, and you found a way to not only overcome that, but become a positive influence to a lot of people. And you guys are doing a lot for a lot of people. And that's the first thing I wanted to talk about was roofers in recovery. I know you guys have put this organization together, and I applaud you so much for it because there's a huge need in our industry for sure. There's a huge need in our world, but our industry specifically is, it's very, it's conducive to that kind of stuff. We don't have high quality products as far as healthcare and stuff like that. So we medicate ourselves, and I think a lot of people get in a lot of trouble like that. And if you wouldn't mind, a lot of people are not in the roofing industry that watch this show. I try to make it a little more like diverse.
Broad.
I have magicians and morticians and all kinds of stuff on here. But to anybody that doesn't know you, that's not in our industry, why don't you tell a little bit about your story, and what led you and your friends to step up and take on this project that honestly nobody really had to do, but it's obviously a labor of love. And what led to that?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Chuck. So I got sober actually about 13 years ago. I was definitely a problem. I got into a lot of different bad situations in my life. I ended up with my fourth DUI in 2009, and I was looking at 1 to 5 years in prison, and that scared the ever living shit out of me. And my attorney at the time, who was also a buddy of mine, told me, he's like, "Hey, you need to go to treatment, but not so that I could get better." He didn't recommend that I went to treatment so that I could get better. He recommended that I go to treatment so that I could get leniency. So I was like, yeah, like 30 days is less than 1 to 5 years. I knew math, right? I understood math.
In criminal math, that makes perfect sense.
Total sense, right? So I ended up going to rehab at a place called Valley Hope in O'Neill, Nebraska, out in the middle of fucking nowhere. And checked in there, and for the first 2 weeks, it was I was still in a daze. I was still kind of fuzzy. I don't remember the first couple of weeks very well. And I had this moment. I tell this story a lot, but I had this moment while I was sitting in the lecture hall, and they were doing a little lecture, and I was looking up, and they have like cups on the wall. You get a cup every time you come back, right? But so while you're there, you draw on this cup or whatever, and then you hang. The day you graduate, you hang your cup. And then a year later, you come back for your first birthday, we call it, right? And your anniversary. And then you get your cup back. It's kind of a big thing, right? And so I was looking up at the wall, and I see all these cups and these plates and all these different things. And I look out the window, and it's snowing. And I had this weird like epiphany. And out loud, while the person's lecturing, I go, "Holy shit, I'm in rehab."
Sometimes it just hits you like that, right?
Like I verbalized it. It was super weird. And everybody looks at me like, what the fuck is wrong with this guy? And I had this weird moment. I was like, you know what? Normal people don't go to rehab. Like, people without a problem don't go to rehab. So maybe you should shut the fuck up and listen. And that was what I decided to do kind of in that moment. And it's it's something I tell people all the time is shut the fuck up and listen. Sometimes you need to just shut the fuck up and listen a little bit. You're talking too goddamn much, right? And maybe you should take the time to listen to somebody that has been through what you're going through, right? And so I decided to do that, and I let the door open a little bit, to take some advice and to take some suggestions. And I ended up, going home after 30 days. I did have one relapse on the day after New Year's Eve. Like, who stays sober? Who
Yeah,
stays
if you're
sober
gonna
on New
do
Year?
it, you might as well pick a unique day to do it.
Well, I stayed sober on New Year's Eve and then got drunk the next day. Went and relapsed, but it was one night, and after that, and I never had a drink or a drug since. And so, fast forward to your question, um, so I ended up meeting Paul Reed about maybe a little over 5 years ago, I would say, and we were at a conference together, and we sat down. We were actually at an APA booth, and we sat down at the APA booth. I always have big, nice couches,
Oh yeah.
and we were sitting there talking, and within like 10 minutes, we figured out that we were both sober, and so the conversation just steered towards that, and so we kind of connected on that, and we became friends. And some months later, whatever it was, I don't remember the timeline exactly, but I remember Paul called me and was like, hey man, we should do something. And I was like, okay, what's that mean? And he's like, I don't know, we should send somebody to treatment. Like, it'd be really cool if we could send somebody to treatment once a year. And I'm like, that would be cool. How do we do that? He's like, I don't fucking know. He's like, let's each throw 10 grand into a pot. And I'm like, okay. So we both threw some money into a pot. Somebody called, wanted help, and we sent him to rehab. And then all of a sudden, the phone kind of started ringing off the hook. And we were like, well, shit, like, we can't afford this. Like, like, we're going to go broke just sending people to treatment. That's wild. So we decided to form a nonprofit, Roofers in Recovery. And Kim obviously was integral in that because Paul and I have no idea how to do all that back end shit, making a nonprofit and everything that comes with it. And we started raising money. And we've sent over 40 people to treatment to date. And this year, we've got some really, really, really big things happening. Um, Roofers in Recovery and Paul and Kim actually bought a rehab facility in Southern Colorado, and
Wow.
so the nonprofit's kind of being split up a little bit. On one side, that's handling the rehab facility as well. That's going to take everybody from all over the country, not just roofers. And then the Roofers in Recovery side is still going to be focusing on, finding people to help in our industry, and then we'll have the ability to send them to that treatment facility, which will give us the opportunity to actually send more people because of the cost benefit of it, right? So for every one person that we were able to send to Valley Hope, where I went, and they were giving us a great deal, they were an amazing partner. We're going to be able to send three for every one that we were sending before. So we're going to be able to help more and more people. And I know something that you and I talked about and we wanted to bring up today is our biggest fundraiser of the year is Roofers in Recovery
Yes,
Day. And
absolutely.
so that's on June 2nd, I think it is this year, the first Friday of June. And we're trying to recruit 150 roofing companies or solar companies, construction companies to donate the profit from one roof. So pay your subs, pay your suppliers. So you're not actually out of pocket any money, and then build the roof on that day, document it, send it to us so we can promote it. Let your local news media outlets know about it, that you actually care about your industry and you actually care about the people that are in it, that are working in it, and donate the profit from that roof. And so if we can raise, if we can get 150 companies to do that, we can almost hit our goal of $750,000 for that, because that is our goal of being able to send 50 people in the construction and roofing industry to treatment in the year. So that's our real big day. That's what we're going to be pushing. We'll be talking about it at IRE. Obviously, this will air after IRE, but like that's when we're going to be pushing it real hard. So we're really excited about that. So that's kind of, it's turned into our passion. Like you said, it's a passion project. We love doing it. We love being able to help people. We also have weekly recovery meetings on Tuesday nights at 8 p.m. Central and on Thursday mornings at 7 a.m. Central. So people from all over the country jump in on these Zoom meetings, and you can actually get a recovery meeting, and then we can help you get plugged into your local community to go find you, local actual like real AA meetings and NA meetings and things like that. So for anybody that's watching that might want to be involved in just that part of it and the fellowship and the recovery side of it, reach out to me, reach out to Paul, and we can get you plugged into that.
Man, I'll tell you what, Eric, that is absolutely incredible. The way that it started was just a couple guys saying, "Hey, man,
Yeah.
we need to do something. This is awesome." And I actually have never met Paul Reed in person, which is kind
Oh,
of
really?
crazy. I've been in this for 20 some years, and I've never met him in person. I
Oh.
follow you guys all on Facebook, and I know everything that's going on with everybody, and I know a lot of Paul's friends, but I've never met the man. So my goal for IRE this coming week is to go find him and shake his hand.
We'll make it happen. We'll make it happen.
Yeah, for sure we're gonna make it happen, because what you guys are doing is far beyond, what any of us even really understand at this point. You guys are saving lives in mass quantities, and I think that deserves as much recognition and promotion as we can possibly do. I think everybody knows. Yeah, everybody knows someone in this that's died from.
And the other big thing that we really like to try to reiterate to people is that, because a lot of times people have a hard time understanding and getting behind the person and the human that is needing the help. There's a lot of people out there like, well, just fucking stop drink, like they don't understand the disease of alcoholism. But what we try to explain to people is like, the other thing that we're trying to do and facilitate is put families back together, right? Because at the end of the day, we're not just helping one person, right? We're helping a family. We're helping a family and a wife or a husband and their kids have a unit again, have a family unit, because they can't do that when somebody is suffering in the disease of alcoholism. Like they just can't have that family dynamic. It doesn't work. And so our real goal is putting families back together, and that's the real exciting part of this.
It is. And I can tell from you specifically, how important your family is. I know every single Sunday you are having ice cream sundae with your little girl.
Yeah.
And that's something I've noticed for the last couple years. And it's like, you know what? That guy right there, as busy as he is with everything that's going on, understands to take the time out every week for that most important thing. And that's very commendable.
What's really been cool about that, Chuck, is we started doing that. Tegan's 7 now, and we started doing that when she was probably 3, I think. And it was just something that I just wanted to do, right? I was like, let's just have a day that's me and you, and we go do whatever we're going to do. Right now we've turned it into like, we go hit golf balls and we go play golf after ice cream and like whatever. But what was really cool about it is that I had no intention of it like becoming a thing. I just thought it would be cool to like take a picture, post it on social media, and be like, hey, it's Daddy Boogie Day. I call my daughter Bugs. And I'm like, it's Daddy Boogie Day. Like, enjoy your day, blah, blah, blah. All of a sudden, like, I don't know how much longer down the road it was, but all of a sudden I started seeing other people start doing it. And other people start messaging me and they're like, hey, we started doing this on Sundays too. And I started doing this with my daughter, and I started doing this with my son, and blah, 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 blah. And at first it was really funny because I told Tegan, my daughter, I was like, hey, look, this other guy is doing the same thing. And at first she got jealous because she's like, oh, like they get to do it too.
Yeah, that's our thing.
And I'm like, no, honey, I'm like, it is our thing. I'm like, but you're inspiring other people to get to spend that kind of time with their dad. I'm like, that's a really big deal because people are watching you and us, and now they get to have the same thing. I'm like, and that is huge. And then all of a sudden she understood it, and now she gets excited about it. But I think that's been the biggest reward from that, is that I have friends or people that have become friends because of that, because they saw it and they started doing it with their kids, right? And that's what we're here to do, is to try and inspire and get people to do things that maybe they didn't think about, right? That ends up giving this opportunity to become the better human that they were supposed to be.
Yeah, without a doubt, because busy people, you've got to make a concerted effort to do that. And
Yes.
I think that's the most impressive thing is, I know that you travel all over the country. You're in, you were in Denver last week. I know my friends, the Copples were over there with you
Oh
guys
yeah.
and
Yep.
having fun. And you're speaking at big events. You're not home probably, a lot of the time. So that's
Yeah.
very crucial to have that time with your daughter.
It's about being intentional. If there's one word that anybody can pull out of anything, it's intentional, right? Whatever you're doing, I don't believe in balance doesn't exist, right? But intentionality does. And so when you're working, be intentional about the work that you're putting in, right? When you're with your family or you're with your kids or whatever it is, be intentional about that time that you're spending with them. And that's what I've tried to. I'm not perfect at it by any stretch of the imagination, but I am better than I ever used to be. And I like to think hopefully I'm better than most, right? Because I want to continue to get better at that and be intentional about the time that you're spending with the people that you're spending that time with.
Yeah, it means the world to them, I can assure you, and
Hmm.
people really take notice of that stuff. So that's
Yeah.
amazing, really. Um, Getting back a little bit into just like the day-to-day life of a guy who's running a successful company. I know you've got multiple locations in multiple states. You work with some of the highest level people in our industry and commercial and all that. I saw an ad yesterday. One of your guys was talking about, we're going to roof the entire state of Texas. That's hugely ambitious. I respect that. But there's a lot of time, a lot of stress, a lot of moving parts that go into that.
Hmm.
What's a typical day for Eric look like as far as handling 9 million freaking things at once and making it look, you make it look smooth, dude. I'm sure it's not, but
I wish I had a typical fucking day. Like,
right. That was a trick question, by the way. That's exactly the answer I was looking
yeah,
for. What the
yeah.
fuck is a typical day?
There is no typical fucking day for Eric. It is, you know, I'm learning as I go as well, right? There were no schools to learn this shit, right? When we were, coming up in the industry, um, there was nowhere to go. There were the conferences back then were, there was IRE and like maybe MRCA and shit like that, but those were just trade shows, right? That you went to learn what the new tool was, to use up on a roof, right? Um, there were no universities, there was no sales training that was roofing specific, there was no how do you open up a new office, right? And I failed my dick off in the last 10 years. I mean, I have made some bad fucking decisions. I tried to open up in Florida. I got introduced to a fucking con artist in Florida, and got taken for about $500,000
Mm.
in that. And I did a 40-minute solo podcast on it, and I told the world about my failure. I don't know if you got a chance to watch that or not, but I talked about everybody involved. Um, at the end of the day, it was all my fault, but there were other parties that obviously led to it, as well. But I learned a lot of what not to do, right? And I learned, how much you have to be around to be able to open up multiple locations, because I had my Omaha location. I tried to open up Florida, had to close that down because I got taken. I opened up an office in Des Moines. We ran that hard for a little while. Uh, then I closed the brick and mortar, but kept working over there on the commercial side and pulled the residential side because of things I learned. And then after moving to Texas, I learned what the integral pieces and people are that you need, right? Because at the end of the day, anybody running any company, if you're running a real business, right, you don't just have a job, right? And that's the mistake I think that some people don't realize is if you're running a business is about people. Can your business run without you being there every day to make sure that everything is fucking happening? Right. And I built a real business back in Omaha. And the goal here is my goal is about 6 to 8 months in building this one where I don't have to be there every day so that I can continue going and speaking and doing the things that fill my bucket, and like make me fulfilled and happy. But it's about finding those right people. So, I mean, to ask you about a typical day, though, I think that this is important is that there are certain non negotiables that I have in a day that have to be accomplished. And like one of them is get up when I'm at home, see Tegan get ready for school, and be here every morning before she goes to school. Right. So I do not start my day working at 6 o'clock like some guys might do. I get up at 6, I have my coffee, I wake her up at 6:45, help my wife get her ready for school. She takes off at 7:30, and then I go to the gym, right? If I don't have my health, I'm not going to get to see her grow up. And so that's a non-negotiable that every day I have the opportunity to go work out, go to the gym, get that in, and then I can start my day working, right? And then I'll head into the office, lock my door, do some shit, do some calls, do things like that because I'm constantly working with my Omaha location on Zooms, meeting with different people, doing the same thing here, trying to build the brand, and everything down here. I mean, that's the hardest thing right now when you're starting a company or starting a different branch in a different state is building that brand again, right? But you build your brand through your people, right?
Absolutely.
I,
You're
I
advocates.
100%. I don't believe that you build a brand with $10,000 a month in Facebook marketing. You build your brand on the street, telling people who you are so that they know who you are and they trust you. And you get to tell them a story and you get to tell them the story of the company and who, you know what I mean? Like what you stand for and how you do things a little bit differently, and how you can educate them. That's why I wrote the 2 books about roofing, right? Is so that we can hand those out to clients to be like, hey, even if you don't choose us, here's a resource. Here's an educational resource that you can use to choose a contractor, right? And I've written one for residential, and I wrote one for commercial as well to give to property owners and property management companies and things like that. So my days are very all over the place, right? But I make sure that I find time for the things that are important to me, right? So like I love golfing, so I schedule time in my calendar to go golf, right? Non-negotiable. Like I get a day or two a week to be able to go hit balls, go golf. I am able to book time so I can go on vacations because I need to go scuba diving. We're leaving next Sunday and going to Cayman for a week, right? I have to find time for that because in those moments, a lot of times is when you find clarity, right? When you're alone in the water or wherever your happy place is, maybe it's in the mountains or whatever it is, when you get away from the day-to-day shit that you're dealing with, right now, that's when you have epiphanies and moments and you're able to reflect and you're able to find things that will take you to that next level and take you to that next step in your life. And so again, it goes back to the word intentional, right? But it's about being intentional with your time so that that time is productive.
Yes, sir. My goodness. I love the fact that you start your day off with one non-negotiable, which is your physical fitness. That's
Yep.
something that I've been really big on for about the last 2.5 years or so. And I told the story yesterday. I had a guy on here that was a speaker at a conference we did last week. I learned about Fat Chuck by a picture that was taken of me when I was going to be speaking at my first conference, and my face was like this big.
Mm-hmm.
And I just decided that day, screw this, man. I don't like that guy. And every day, I mean, I get up, I've already got a run scheduled with Dave Carroll on Wednesday over at IRE. We're going to go do a 5K run.
Nice.
And just, I think that the difference in mindset from, fat ass Chuck to Chuck that's like in fairly decent condition at my age has been a complete transformation. I feel so much better. And the word that you hit there was clarity. I mean, it really, there's something to just throwing heavy shit around and like, really working yourself to make you feel like, hey, you know what? It's going to be all right. I'm the man. I can make this happen. So
Yeah, I mean, I'm in better shape now. I mean, I have a picture that I keep on my phone of my last birthday when I was still drinking and using. I was 30 years old, so I got sober when I was 30, and I was 310 pounds and bloated. My face was fucking huge, and just I looked old as shit, right? Now I am old, but I probably look 10 years younger than I did in that picture from when I was 30 years old.
yeah, it's crazy how that works. I look at myself too, and it's like, holy cow, dude, I am definitely aging gracefully, or I'm doing something right. Maybe it's just
Yeah,
all the shit that I quit eating and the stupid stuff I quit doing.
right.
And I've never considered myself like a problem drinker or anything, but there were some periods in my life where, you go home, you had a bad day, you polish off a 12 pack, get up
Yeah,
midway through the night, polish off another 12, do what you got to do.
yeah,
But I cut that stuff out too, just kind of as a choice, because it's like, damn, if I'm going to go run 10 miles, why would I go drink 6 beers and fucking waste all that,
right.
all that progress? And I think a lot of people, you know, once they get into that mindset, that is a huge opportunity as well to just completely transform who you are. And I think a lot of people in our industry have that same deal. You know, I was talking with Dave Carroll the other day, and he said the same thing, dude. 3 years ago, you wouldn't recognize me in my videos. And now, you know, we're all going the right way. We're going to be around for a while because I think we're going to make a huge impact and change this industry. And I think a lot of us are going to change the world. So I'm super proud to be a part.
At the end of the day, too, I truly believe like you can't do that unless you've went through something, right? Because you can't appreciate it, right? You can't appreciate good food unless unless you were forced to eat shit food, right? If all you ever had was good food, then that's all, you know what I mean? Like that's all you know, right? And I guess that analogy comes up because I think of being in jail, right? And eating garbage ass fucking jail food, not being able to shower by yourself, not being able to take a shit by yourself, right? You don't appreciate the little things that you get to have in this life because of what this industry has given to us, right? Like we've all worked for it, but this industry gave us opportunities for fucking college dropouts and drug addicts and alcoholics and whatever to be able to have a life where we're able to provide for our families and make money and you know do the things that we all you know aspire to do. There's nothing else I know how to do. Like I don't know how to do anything but have a roofing company, right? I've never had a job in my life, right? And when I was a kid, I worked for my grandpa roofing, right? Like that's
Yeah,
all I.
it's a lifestyle, and so many people get into it from birth, and it's like, damn, you know, I wish I could get out, but I really don't want to get out of it because
But,
it's fun. I
and
think when we were at
what else would
RoofCon,
I
you
do?
compared it to the mafia, right? And it's like, this is
Yes,
the fucking mafia, dude.
yeah, like they fucking suck you in, and like, how do you get out? Like, you don't.
You
And
don't.
even if I did though, like, I don't even know what I would do because at the end of the day, and here's the other thing, man. This is what I tell all my people as well that work for me is that roofing just happens to be our widget, right? Roofing is just our widget. Everybody's got a different widget, right? But I tell them we need to sell a fuckload of widgets so that we can help more people, right? I can't do what I want to do and donate to my time and my money to Roofers in Recovery and any other nonprofits that we support if we're not selling a shitload of widgets, right? So, like, you need to sell more widgets. And I don't care if you're selling toilet paper or toothbrushes or paper clips or whatever the fuck it is that you're selling. If you don't sell a bunch of them, you don't have the opportunity to do the other good things in life that are giving back. Because at the end of the day, you know, if you believe in being judged or whatever it is, I personally think, and I just make up my own shit, but I think you get judged on the people that you help. I think that you get, you know what I mean? Like I think you get judged on, I think that's the definition of a good human is do you care about your fellow man? Do you care about other people or do you only care about yourself? And when you change that mindset to I care about other people, good things tend to happen in your life.
Yeah, it's funny how that works. I tell you, there's many cases in my life where I've been bitter and I've been pissed off about circumstances. And I try to blame people for everything that's going
Mhm.
wrong. Ultimately, you have to take acceptance of it and say, look, you know, like you just said, I have screwed up a lot of shit in the course of my 43 years on this planet. I've been through a lot of stupid decisions. I've always been the guy who's too hard headed to take advice, and I know better than everybody. And it put me in some rough spots. But the cool thing about our industry is, like you said, it is the one thing where, I mean, you said college dropout, dude. I didn't even graduate from high school. Like I was that
Oh,
guy.
really?
I was 2 weeks away from high school, and I got pissed off because this is the dumbest thing ever. I'll tell this story. I've never told it before, but I think you'll maybe appreciate this.
Mhm.
Okay, so I graduated in somewhere in the 90s, or I was supposed to.
Mhm.
Um, and back then, the world was a little different, as you're aware, from what we have now, where you can
Mhm.
literally go in some states, you can go and buy marijuana right in a store and you can do whatever you want. Well,
Right.
I had this idea when I was in high school, right? And I'm going to save the economy of the world and I'm going to get all this stuff that can, you know, save all these products and it's going to be environmentally. I was going to legalize weed. Okay. And in government class, we had to write up a bill or a law or whatever the hell it was and explain all this stuff. And I'm telling you, Eric, I should have been a politician, but I was only in high school. I was 20 some years ahead of my time, but it got me in a lot of trouble because that was inappropriate content. And you have to go back and write something that we believe. is not inappropriate content. And basically at that point, I threw up the birds and said, I'll see you guys on the other side. 2 weeks away from graduating high school. My mom was pissed. My mom hated that decision, but at the end of the day, it was what it was. I never really cared and regretted it that much, but that's why I didn't.
Did you go back and get your GED?
I got my GED and I got like a 98% on it. I think I missed one question. So, I mean, I was going to graduate with a pretty good GPA. I didn't have any plans on college. I just always felt like I was just going to go out and do what I ended up doing anyway. But that's what happened to me. So you look at that and it's like, damn, that's kind of stupid. You know, did it ultimately hurt me? I don't know. Probably not. But it's just one of those decisions. And then you look at it and you say, well, okay, now what can I do? I can't be a doctor. I can't be a freaking lawyer. I probably could be like, you know, I'm not going to mention any names of shitty jobs, but I could probably do some of that stuff.
Yeah.
Or I could be driving home one day from my job where I'm delivering drywall and I see a roofing supply company that's hiring and I end up going in there. And here we are 25 years later. This entire industry changed my life. And I was pissed off at my job one day and I just did it by chance, you know?
Yep.
And I think that's what's cool about it is it's a very forgiving and it's a very accepting industry. And my goal has always been to try and help as many people as I can that have been in a shitty situation that maybe can't, don't feel like they can reach their potential. Yeah. And I want to make people feel like they're better than they currently feel about themselves. And that's what's so cool about this. And we tie all that stuff together as a huge group. I think we can be very impactful across the world. So
yeah, I don't disagree. I love that. I don't know. Have I told you my story, how I quit school?
No, tell me.
I had moved different colleges. I went down to Lincoln to the University of Nebraska, went there for a few years, and then I moved back to Omaha because I was traveling back and forth working. So I was still working for my grandpa, and I was roofing and selling and whatever. And so eventually I was like, the drive is too much. I was like, I'm just going to move back to Omaha and go to UNO, with University of Nebraska in Omaha. And the UNO at that time was a commuter campus. So there wasn't people that like lived on campus back then. They do now, but they didn't back then. And I drove down there one day and I couldn't find a parking spot. And I drove around for an hour trying to find a parking spot. And I got so pissed off. I called my grandpa and I was like, I'm done with this bullshit. Get me more appointments. And that was how I quit school. I never called him. I never told him I quit school. I just fucking quit. And because I couldn't find a parking spot. And I was like, fuck this place. I'm not coming back here. And that was literally, I had to change colleges, within the university so many times because my GPA kept dropping so much that they're like, well, you can't graduate from this college anymore. And I'm like, all right, which one can I?
Which one's got the lower standards? I love it.
Yes. And it ended up being the College of Continuing Studies. They were like, you can graduate with a 2.0 there. And then I got down to like a 1.8 and I was like, fuck this. I was like, I'm out. And so I dipped out because I was always prioritizing work over the school because I hated professors. None of them had any real life experience. They were all teaching shit out of a book. And I'm like, wait a minute, I'm living in the real world. I'm living in a business world. I'm like, and y'all don't know what the fuck you're talking about. And I'd get really fucking angry about it. I was kind of an angry person back then. And I would get very irritated. I'd get up and I'd walk out of class. And it just wasn't conducive to the way that I learn. Right. But what's funny about that is just because you don't like school doesn't mean that you don't like to learn. Right. Like it doesn't mean that you don't want to be educated. Like I love learning. I just don't like learning like that.
Yeah, I think it's the exact opposite for people like us. I'm the same way. I'm very inquisitive. I'll go take something apart without knowing how to put it back together just so I can figure it out. And
because you'll figure it out.
Exactly. If I look at an instruction manual, I'm screwed, like I always have extra parts when I put these things together and I hope that that's how it's supposed to be. But, my bookshelf over here is still standing and, I have those abilities. And you're right. Most people, everybody has different ways that they learn. I was never really a big fan of sitting there and having someone tell me, this is what you need to do. You have to be smart and get good grades so you can go get a good job and go work for somebody and, make a nice, peaceful, calm living and be average.
It doesn't mean that there's not a benefit to going to school, right? Like there is, and there is for a lot of people, right? It's just that if you're a person that it doesn't benefit, be able to identify that, but be able to identify that just not going to school isn't the fucking option, right? Because a lot of people are just, I don't like school. Well, I don't fucking like school anyway, but what are you going to do next, right? Are you going to go out and figure it out? Because that is the generation that we still had growing up was that we were still taught to figure shit out. And I did a podcast with Carver, and we talked for an hour about people who I coined figure it outers, right? And that's a it's a skill that has kind of went away, right? I mean, how many people do you have in your business and they come to you and ask you some question and you're like, fucking figure it out. Like that's what I've done my entire life. Like I didn't have Google 20 years
Right.
ago, right? Like if I would have had Google 20 years ago, you know how much shit I'd have been able to figure out. But I had to just figure it out on my own. I had to pick up a phone. I had to call somebody. I had to go get a dictionary. I don't fucking know. Go to the you know what I mean? Like you had to figure shit out to exist, right? You had to figure it out. If your bike broke down, I didn't know how to fucking put a bike together, but I figured out how to put a bike back together if a wheel fell. You know what I mean? Like you figure that shit out. Where today people just look at it and go, I don't know, dad, mom, can you do this for me? Nah, fucking figure it out, right? Like figure out how to do it. And I think that's a skill that's lost. And but on that same token, the people of this generation that do have the ability to do that,
They're going to dominate.
they are the most successful people in the industry on the planet because they have that self-sufficient mode of figuring shit out. And those are the people that win every single day of the week.
Absolutely. And that gap is just getting bigger as we go. The
It
people that are
re-
still over here that can figure it out, boy, they are going to dominate this world because the
yep,
dumbasses are starting to really multiply quickly.
they really
And
are. They really are. And what I try to do in my company is try to teach people to become figure it outers, right? And giving them the freedom and the ability to learn how to do things so that they can become self-sufficient. And some people might look at that and be like, "Oh, well, you're just, you're lazy and you don't want to work." No, I want to make people better, right? Like it's not about like my client is not the homeowner. My client is not the property owner of the building, right? That's not my client. My client are my people that work for me. My client are the people inside of my business that I'm trying to lift up and help them grow, right? And I think that when you do that, then that translates to those people because then they do the same thing and they treat your clients the same way that you're treating them, right? You're educating, you're talking to them about service, you're doing all these other things, and then they just want to have a transaction with
yeah, absolutely. Let me ask you this, Eric. Okay,
you.
you've got
Hmm.
multiple branches, you're all over the place. You've just made a huge point about how important the people in your organization
Hmm.
are for your success. Have you you did mention you got burned by someone in Florida, but
Hmm.
putting these people into different places and then just saying, okay, everything's going to be good. Obviously, I've experienced myself. That doesn't always work out right. And
No, 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 no.
sometimes you really think, what the fuck was I doing there? But,
Yeah.
have you, other than getting completely screwed by someone in Florida that turned out to be a bad deal, has there ever been a situation in your business where you've had someone that you trusted or that you thought had your best interest in mind that went rogue and decided, hey, you know what? I think I could do something different. And you find out down the road that you've been sabotaged,
Mm.
or maybe you don't
Sabot
even know.
sabotage. I don't know about sabotage. Give me an example, because
Well,
obviously,
I know a guy, and I won't mention any types of names or
yeah, yeah,
locations,
yeah,
but I know a
yeah.
guy who had someone working in their organization for 20 plus years.
Hmm.
And one day I turn on the news and they're like, the secretary got busted for laundering $700,000
Oh
over the course
shit.
of time. And she was in charge of the numbers. So it was like,
Mm.
nobody saw it, dude. Like, it's 20 bucks at a time over a 20-year
Right,
period or whatever. And, the guy was just like, dude, I sat here all day in this office and I didn't know that was going on.
right,
You
right,
ever
right.
had you ever had that one
So
person you're like, you know what? Screw you. You done me wrong. And
I've had numerous people, I don't want to say do me wrong, but I've had numerous people do me wrong that I've had to let go. I haven't had anything at that level other than the guy in Florida because he was literally stealing money, taking deposits from clients, not building the job.
mm,
I wasn't there every day to be having oversight, of that. So I mean, that obviously, yes, that did happen. But as a general rule inside of my company, we keep things um, fairly insulated and compartmentalized so that no one person has too much ability or power to be able to do everything, right? So that that can't happen. And I'll be honest, and a lot of people will disagree with this, but I know what my I know what my number is that I like to do every year, right? Or what I want to hit. I know exactly how many employees and back end staff I need to be able to hit that number. Doesn't mean we fucking hit it every year, right? But I know what the support staff is that I need. I know what I have going out to be able to hit those numbers. I also know how much more I have to come up with and how much more headache I get if I want to take it to a different stratosphere, right? So I have already made a decision that I have absolutely no desire to become Kurt Lennington, right? Like I have no desire. Like that's not on my list of wants because there's other sacrifices that you have to be willing to make to be able to do that. I'm not saying I couldn't do it. I could if I wanted to, right? But I like this certain number that I like to hit. It gives me the opportunity to affect a certain amount of people, and then it gives me the ability to get outside of my bubble and affect more people, right? So I'm not trying to um, give myself the opportunity to have that happen, right? Because like when it comes to money and things like that, like of course we have accountants and all those kind of people inside of our company, but they can't touch our money, right? So my wife still touches the money and handles that because she has an accounting background. She was an accountant for a long time. So it's not like I just had my wife do my fucking accounting, right? Like she understands the money and she runs that and it keeps that side insulated. Now people are going to watch this and be like, "Ah, you small-minded fuck," like why don't you
Mm-mm.
want to do $100 million? Like, well, I just fucking don't because I enjoy doing all these other things, right? I want to do 10, 15, you know what I mean, 20, whatever. Like that's my reach goal is to hit, those higher numbers. But I know I've got the staff to do that now, right? I believe in incrementally slow growth. Now, that doesn't mean if I do this for another 20 years that this might not grow into something like that, right?
Sure.
Because it's all about incremental growth to me. I think that the people that fail, for people that are listening that are in the roofing space or starting companies or they're in their first few years, I think that the people that end up busting really fast are the guys that they're paying too much attention to these people in the industry that are fucking blowing up in a year or two, and they think that that's the way to grow a company, right? What they don't understand is that a lot of these guys already had millions of dollars from something else that they were doing so that they could bankroll it, right? And they weren't worried about the overhead. They knew they could eat however many millions of dollars a year to get everything rolling in a year or two. Does that make sense?
Oh my
And
God, it makes
and
perfect sense.
and most people don't understand that. And if you're starting a company and you're like, hey, I got 100 grand, like that's what I got to get this thing started. Well, you better be smart about where you spend that 100 grand and what's your line of credit so that you can understand that you can't don't overproduce or don't oversell what you can't fucking produce because that's the one thing that isn't taught in this industry. And I know a couple people have been chatting about it online a little bit, but the one thing that people don't talk about in this industry is production. They talk about sales all fucking day long. But if you can't produce it,
It doesn't matter.
you're fucked if you can't produce it. So go to all the sale trainings you want because obviously sales is like, if you don't have sales, you're fucked, right? But if you can't build those jobs, then you're done, right? You have to figure out with my current production staff, how many jobs can I build a week, right? Maybe it's 5, maybe it's 10, maybe it's 20. I don't know, right? But figure out what you're comfortable with so that you don't hire a sales team. I know sales teams. I had a guy on Mo Fala. He's a solar guy. I had Mo Fala on my show, and he went down and he bankrupted a company in Florida because he oversold them on solar and windows. He sold so much fucking work that they couldn't build it all, and they literally ended up going out of business because he oversold the company.
I mean, dude, that's one of the most common things. I've been in this for 25 years. I was in distribution and I tell stories about guys who would call me crying And it's like, dude, if you can't front me another 40 grand for my credit line, I'm going out of business. And it's like, well, dude, what is my motivation to do that? That's the worst inspirational speech I've ever heard. If I don't give you 40 grand, you're gonna tank, but I'm gonna give you another 40 grand because you're gonna tank if I don't, right? That's the most stupid thing I've ever thought of. But I see, especially here in Texas, where you don't have a whole lot of regulations here. I tell my customers, like, Mrs. Jones, y'all can go start Mrs. Jones Roofing tomorrow, and you can go tell your neighbor that you're a roofing contractor and you're every bit as credible as anyone like myself that's been doing it for 20 plus years. And that's a beautiful thing, but boy, is it dangerous, because a lot of these people see the one side of our industry and it's like, you know what? Oh, these guys run a good company. We sell the roofs. They do everything. Have no understanding of the cash flow. Or, I've got a few people that I mentor. And that's what I always tell them, dude, do not oversell what you can produce, because you're going to go under immediately.
Right.
And the best thing that can happen there is you're going to ruin your reputation. That's the best possible outcome.
But what's the biggest sales funnel right now is sales training.
Oh, dude. Hey, I do sales training for a living. I go consult roofing companies. I want to help people do that. But the first thing I tell everybody is the same exact thing that you just said. Understand your numbers, understand your company. Nobody cares about a $3 million producer if you can only produce $500,000 in jobs, because
whoever comes up with, and I just don't have the fucking time, to be honest, but like whoever comes up with a real production training, package or whatever, you want to call it, whoever comes up with that is going to make a lot of fucking money. Like, that is the play right now. And I just gave like 20 people a fucking idea they're going to take.
No, you didn't. You gave one. You gave one guy an idea.
They're going to make fucking millions, right? Like, I'd love to partner with somebody on that, so I didn't have to do it all by myself. But like, building a production training system for companies, I think that is the key, because people do not talk about it enough. They don't talk about how many production managers do you need to have this many jobs built. How many QC guys do you need? How many project managers do you need? How many runners do you need? How do you pay those guys? How do you make sure that this guy's handling this many builds? How many different crews do you need? How big do they need to be? How do you break down those crew sizes? Let this production guy build everything up to 35 square. Let this guy build everything up to 150 square, because he's running the 10-man crew. They're running the 4-man crew. You know what I mean? Like, there's so much to it that if you really fucking dial that in, like, fuck, I think we should just do that. Let's just do that. After this, like, let's build that out and go fucking sell.
I'm down.
We really could. Like, we could, I mean, we're just business idea. Don't fucking air this until we fucking come up with this idea, right?
Yeah, but don't worry.
We could literally build that. And we could build that in fucking 4 months, right? We could build that in 4 months and make a little university on it. But the difference is like, that will not the difference, because sales training changes lives, right? But this is going to, I truly believe, like, that could keep companies from going bankrupt, right? When you sell sales training, you sell this vision of boats and fucking houses, and you know what I mean? Like, you sell this dream, right? Production training sells, don't fucking bankrupt yourself, because you can.
Yeah, dreams versus reality, man. Reality is not as sexy as the dream, but I'll tell you what, without it, you're screwed.
But I think people have went through this cycle of sales, like being shoved down their throat. And I think there's been enough people that have been burnt by it and not figuring out the production side of it, that I think it would be a very interesting commodity. Yeah, we're not done with this conversation. This is what happens.
Sure.
This is what happens when good people get into a room together and fucking brainstorm together. You know what I mean? And come up with new fucking ideas. Like, this is what happens when you do that. That's why I love getting outside of myself and like just talking with other dudes, because you come up with fucking good ideas.
Yeah, and I don't think there's anything more needed right now than that. I think, I see a lot of people that are trending that direction, and I think we all recognize there's a huge void in, sales training is crucial. There's a 100%. Lot of dumb shits out here that don't have a clue what they're doing. It's a race 100%. To the bottom, and it's like, dude, if you could just figure this out, you'd be so much further along. But that mindset, a lot of times it's when you have a laborer that decides they're going to become an entrepreneur, and they don't understand any of that stuff because they've been swinging hammers and collecting a paycheck.
Yeah.
And I think if we could, if we could figure out a way to teach some of those people, not all of them deserve to be in the position of authority and
Yep.
success. Some of them deserve to fail, but
Yep.
a lot of really good people go out there with great intentions. And at the end of the day, in those deals, sure, you screw yourself, you screw your people. The homeowners are the ones that are getting dicked. And the homeowners are the ones that nobody really thinks about in these situations. The people whose roof is torn off and Johnny's Roofing or whatever stole their check and they're gone, the elderly people. I had some old people here, and that's a terrible elderly folks. Old people is a terrible, term. They're pretty old though. Yeah. And they called me out because they had a roof leak and their insurance, which I won't name, but they're a pretty good neighbor from what I've been told, decided they weren't going to pay for these damages because I don't know what the reasons were. I didn't care. But they hired a roofing company to come out and fix a couple things on their roof. And these people didn't do anything, Eric. They took like a tube of caulk. It was a neoprene pipe boot that had completely split because they're meant to do that after 7 years or so, And instead of just replacing the boot, they put some caulk around it and smashed it back down, collected $1,500, told the people they changed the pipe boots out, went on about their business. Well, I get up there and I show this guy this, and it's like, man, this is the problem in our industry is you called a company that you found and you trusted that they were going to be right. And they literally just they screwed you.
I love it when people caulk, no caulks.
Right?
It's in the fucking name.
It's the number one fix for that exact problem, though. It's like, if you can't get enough duct tape or Band-Aids, get some caulk. Right. And if you go right over the no caulk, then it doesn't say it anymore. So
and it doesn't say it. That's true.
That's the way it is. It's like putting 5 different ventilations on a house because it's 5 times better, right?
I love seeing that as well. Yes. Yeah. Yes.
There's a ton of it in this world, unfortunately, because roofing is also, as much as I hate to say this and it pains me, it's also a dumbass type
it can
industry.
Be. And I think that's how you differentiate yourself, right? Like I love the idea of working down here in Texas right now. Everybody bitches about it because there's no regulation, but I think that it gives you an opportunity to be able to stand out, right? I think it gives you an opportunity to be able to sit at somebody's kitchen table and say, hey, look, we are different because of these reasons. You can go get 10 other people to come in here and give you a bid that might be 30-40% less because they have absolutely no overhead. They don't pay their subs properly. They don't have insurance. They don't have this. They don't have that. They don't do things the right way. They're buying secondhand material. They don't like whatever. But there's like a million different ways to differentiate yourself where it is a little harder to differentiate yourself when you're in markets that are so highly regulated because everybody's fucking regulated the same. So it's like, well, dude, what makes you different? Like you got to do all the same shit the government's making you do right now, right? Like you have to get 9 inspections from the state of Florida before you can fucking even dry it in, and like all this other bullshit. But when you do things actually differently in a non-regulated entity, right, you do have an opportunity to stand out, but only if your sales training is good, right? Because you have to be able to communicate that with your clients. And so if you're not good at communicating,
you're right back where you started. It's
right. Yeah.
A race to the bottom again.
So yeah. Anyway, sorry. Went on a roofing tangent there.
I love it. Sometimes I talk about roofing. I've been doing it for a long time.
Speaking of though, I'm going to fucking flip the script on you here and I'm going to do a little interview on you as well.
Let's go.
What the fuck's going on with you? Because you're not in roofing anymore, correct?
Technically, I'm not in contracting anymore. We'll say that. I'm definitely staying in our industry. I've been in this industry 25 years and I love it. Okay. What happened was it's very much like what we just talked about, Eric. We started this business 4 years ago with myself and my business partners, the Copples and Joseph Kozel, who own ASAP Roofing over in East Texas.
Okay.
4 years ago, I was coming into this as a sales rep who had been successful in residential roofing sales for 7 years. I was in distribution for 15 years prior to that. So I didn't really have a contracting background as far as this, what I started doing. We decided to buy a company. I was working with John Dye over in Indianapolis at ASAP Roofing, and I came down to Texas, back to Texas. And this opportunity for Rio Blanco came out of nowhere. It was just one of those deals at dinner one night. They're like, hey, we want you to run a company. We want you to run an office. What if we bought this thing in San Antonio and you went down there? Well, Chuck, the roofer at that point was like, hell yeah, let's do this, man. I can do it. I know nobody in San Antonio. I'd never been here before. Let's go, man. I hear it's competition down here and I hear it's tough, but I don't care. I know who I am. Come down. We do all that stuff. But in the 4 years, people grow. People definitely develop. I'm not Chuck the roofer anymore. You know, Chuck the roofer 4 years ago would never be talking to Eric on a podcast, much less episode 108 of my damn Keepin It Rio that I came up with. I've been, you know, last Thursday, I'm speaking at a conference over in East Texas. I did consulting for a company in Oklahoma the week before. You know, I've got a ton of people that call me for advice, and I fell out of love with contracting. I'm not going to lie. It's one of those things. After so many roofs, it's like, all right, you know, it's another roof going up. That's great. I don't get as excited. And honestly, in the 4 years, what we did is we took a company that was dead. It was out of business when we got it, rebranded it, resurrected it, and we had 3 branches in the first 18 months. That, my friend, was our mistake, because I was going from here to here to here to here to here to here. One of my Facebook memories from 1 year ago today was I started in San Antonio in my office. There's a picture of me in my office in San Antonio. Then there's a picture of me in my office in College Station, which is almost 3 hours away. And then there's a picture of me in my office in Tyler, which is another 3 hours away. That was all in one day. I was in all 3 of these in one day. And guess what? I'm 30% of my best when I'm running around the state in my car. So I got tired of that. And I was like, you know what? This isn't really fulfilling me anymore. I don't love it. You know, the company, it was okay. You know, I mean, it's not like we weren't a $50 million business or anything. And initially my goal was to be, like you said, like a Kurt Lennington. I was trying to do 25 branches and $100 million. Chuck the roofer had all kinds of big dreams. Chuck the realist that got stressed out about 2.5 years ago and then had some family issues that came in and kind of messed everything up and muddied the waters. He just decided, man, I want to do something different. I want to help a greater scale of people. I want to make our industry better. And I've got some cool things that I'm coming out with here shortly. Cannot announce it yet because I'm 100% sure what I'm going to do, but there's always that slight chance that something weird could happen between now and then. And it's going to be amazing. We're going to change a lot of lives. We're going to make our industry better. And the coolest thing about that is my business partners are my best friends. And they understood, you know, they've all grown as well. One of my partners was single, didn't have any kids. Now he's married with a couple kids. You know,
That's cool to watch.
Yeah. They opened up a solar company. They've grown the roofing business, you know, side hustles. K Socialized Media up here on the top of my screen.
Hey, you buying into all this solar bullshit?
We have a solar company, right? And the truth of the matter is I haven't sold a solar job myself. I do believe in it to a certain degree. And I think what the problem with solar is right now is the way that people are selling it. There's a guy over in San Diego, Eric Richardson. He is a freaking genius, man. This guy, if you have a conversation about solar, that's the dude you want to talk to, because he will explain it in a way where you're like, dude, sign me up, man. Like, that makes sense. But a lot of people, it's lowbrow training. It's just like what we're taught, you know, go appeal to the lowest common denominator. Okay. And I hate to say this because it's sort of profiling to a degree, but in San Antonio, I notice a lot of the less affluent neighborhoods have solar. And I realized that was because it's a lower monthly payment. That's what we appeal to. We're going to fuck you on interest for 20 years, but you're going to pay $100 less than you're paying the electric company. So ultimately it looks good on paper, but at the end of the day, you're paying $100,000 for your $30,000 setup. You know, if you look at it from a standpoint of here's how long it takes to make this work, my payoff point is this, and then I need to maximize as much as I can afterwards. And you can balance your stuff yourself, and you allocate your money right. It's unbeatable. If you could pay a system off in 5 to 7 years, and then you get the rest of the life of that system, it's great. The problem is most people in solar do not understand that. They're not taught that. And it's like in roofing, dude, they don't train people right. They just say low payments, dude. That's what appeals to our world. We are low payment, high interest society, and it screws so many people over. So to make that answer right, yes, I believe in solar 100%. I believe in the people that are installing it about 5% at this point. So
Heard that too. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, we'll get
Yeah.
it right someday though, and I
Yeah.
firmly
Yeah. Yeah.
believe that it's going to be that. But yeah, with me, it was cool, and I posted something on Facebook. You know, I was emotional about it because I love my partners, Clint, Leanne Koppel, Joseph Cozell, three of the best human beings on this planet. I will go to bat for them every day for the rest of my life. And you feel like, you know, man, I'm getting out of this partnership. But at the end of the day, I think it made us even closer and stronger as
Oh,
friends.
that's cool. That's cool.
And, you know, I'm going to be with them for life. And we all encourage each other because really, Eric, the truth is none of us dreamt of opening a roofing business. That was never the thing. It's the vehicle that we're driving to get us to that next level. And for me, I think I'm gonna level up and get to that next level because of what we did the last 4 years.
Yep.
I learned so much, and I'm 100% better than I was.
Yep.
But yeah, I burned out, man. I burned out. I went 100 million miles an hour for an extended period of time. I let something outside of the organization, which was, you know, my mother got sick, dude. I'm not gonna sit and say, fuck it, what's more important to me? You know, I don't have any regrets about my choices. But it sucked. It kind of it dragged me back down. We went from where we were on pace to do, you know, 5 million the year before last as a second year company.
Right.
And then it just went to, dude, San Antonio got hit with hail 2 days ago. I don't even care, bro. Like I'm not even interested anymore. That's how much it drew me out and dragged me down. And at some point you just have to say, you know what?
Yeah.
I could keep going like this forever, but I'm not enjoying it anymore. I don't want to wake up and go to work like I used to. It used to be I get to go to work. Now it's like, fuck, man, I got to go to work today. And once you get to that point and you can't give 100 and you don't want to give 100, it's done. You're doing everybody a disservice. So.
And then you can figure out, where do I want to reinvent myself? Do I want to reinvent myself inside of the company, or do I want to reinvent myself outside of the company? Right. Because I had that same moment. And what was interesting for me is that it went a little bit different. I moved down here, and then opening up this branch down here kind of reinvigorated me again. And I got excited again because I was fucking burnt. I was like, dude, again today. But like now I'm like, this is cool. Like I'm building something new. I'm getting to grow some new people. You know, like it got exciting again. Now, fast forward 2 or 3 years down the road, I'm probably gonna be like, all right, I'm fucking tired again. You know, like, and
it's
that
a
is what it
cyclical
is.
thing for sure.
It is, yeah. But it was interesting because I totally understand exactly what you're going through, and that's why I've become so passionate about, you know, doing our podcast, doing some speaking engagements when I can, you know, when I'm invited. It's a very small segment of the industry that likes Eric on a stage, right? The ones that do really like it and it goes really, really well. And then other ones are like, and no. So
yeah, there are several, you know, and your style is definitely what it is. You're authentic. I mean, the word's right there over your shoulder. You're authentic, dude. You're not a fake. That's one thing that I will certainly say is like, this guy here is exactly who he is, regardless, you know?
My entire life has been the same conversation. If anybody ever asks, hey, am I going to like Eric when I'm in? They're like, I don't know. You're either going to really like him or you're going to really not fucking like him. Like, those are the two options. Nobody usually walks away from meeting me and went, I could go one way or the other.
Yeah, I'm neutral with that guy. That's good, like, though. You're decisive.
Nobody's neutral. Yeah, nobody's neutral with Eric. It's always like, I like that guy, I want to hang out with that guy, or like, never fucking again. I don't want to be associated with him. Stay the fuck away. And that's fine. Like, I'm cool with that. It's kind of how I do. It's kind of how I do business too, though. Right?
You fire your bad customers, you know. If you don't like me, then I probably am not going to have a good time working with you anyway. So
exactly. So
go down the road.
I'm good with it.
And it was funny because one of my former guys reached out and was lashing out at you, and I smiled at that because I know that guy from one of the posts that you had. You sent me a thing. It was like, this guy used to work for you. And it was funny because that's the ultimate guy that would not like a guy like you. And he doesn't really like me either. So
was that the adjuster guy?
Yeah. And that's kind of funny, right? It's like such a small world because you sent me this screenshot and I'm like, dude, that's hilarious because that guy was definitely not one of the people that's going to be on Be Authentic or Get the Fuck Out. You know, he's going to be, you know, please be authentic or, you know, get the heck out.
Well, but to be fair, though, that's actually not true. So because what is authentic to me doesn't mean that it has to be what's authentic to you.
No, for sure.
But what it does mean is that you don't feel like you're on this fucking pedestal that you get to judge everybody else for what is authentic to you, right? I don't run around spewing about Jesus every day, right? That's not something that I do. I have my belief system that I feel very strongly about, and I respect others' belief systems, right? But I'm not going to go do that. However, I do love to learn about other people, right? And where they're coming from. So, like, I would love to have somebody like that dipshit on my show because I would sit there and be like, oh, actually, okay. So, sorry, back up real quick. A fucking great post yesterday by Robert Posey. Did you see that post that Robert Posey made yesterday?
I'm
So
not sure.
he made a post yesterday and threw a screenshot up because he said fuck or something in one of his posts, and some fucking bitch. It was a guy, but like some fucking bitch got on there and fucking whined about his language. It was like, oh, I checked out after fuck or whatever it was, right? And he went on this deal and he said, hey, he said it way more eloquently than this, but said something to the effect of, hey, tough guy, if we were sitting and having a conversation and I was telling you a story and I said a word that you don't like, would you have rudely stopped and interrupted my story to make sure and inform me of what your delicacies are or how delicate you are in how language bothers you and blah 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 blah. He had a really good eloquent, position on it, right? I would love to have conversations, and I did with Heather Hitchcock when she was on my show. I had a really good conversation with her about it. I absolutely fucking disagree with her. I absolutely do not fucking agree with her at all. But we sat there and had dialogue and had a real conversation with each other to try and understand where the other person was coming from. I now do understand where she's coming from, and I see her point. I just don't agree with it, right? I just don't, but that's okay, right? Like, I love Heather. I think Heather's great. I would consider Heather a friend. I don't know if she would me or not, but like, I consider Heather a friend. And I feel like I could pick up the phone and call her and ask her a question. And you know what I mean? Like, anytime, even though we disagree on a lot of shit, right? And that's what the world needs more of. I would love to sit in a room with a dipshit like that who thinks that they need to spew off the fucking mouth on social media to show people how much fucking better they are because they don't say the same words that I say, right? It that blows my fucking mind, and it does irritate the shit out of me in the moment. But then when I stop and I sit and I reflect on it, it's like, all right, if that person would be open to a conversation and not judging, I don't judge you, dipshit guy, because you don't say the same words that I say,
Right.
right? I don't come into your house and say, hey, you should say fuck more. No, because that's not my place to tell you what the fuck to do, right?
Yep.
Nor is it your place to tell me what the fuck to do. Live your life. Don't worry about mine, right? If it starts to affect me personally, relationship wise, financially, whatever, well, then maybe it's a conversation I need to have with myself to say, hey, maybe you shouldn't say fuck in a $1 million sales call, right? Like, maybe that's a conversation I need to, it's not something that I do, but if it was, right, like, maybe I need to self-reflect and have a conversation about that. But the people that judge other people because they do things differently than the way that they do it can, for all intents and purposes, as far as I'm concerned, can go get fucked, right? You're not a good person. I don't care if you consider yourself a religious person, if you're whatever, if you're a judgmental fuck and you think that your opinion is the only one that fucking matters, and if people don't do the same shit that you do, then fuck them, then you piss off. Like, you serve no purpose on this planet, and if you're not willing to have open dialogue with people as a human being and understand where other people are coming from and learn what the word empathy actually means, then you're a waste. You're an absolute fucking waste if you can't see past your own fucking nose. And that shit drives me batty because I love having conversations with people about that. I love disagreeing with people to try and understand where they're coming from. Doesn't mean I'm going to agree with them, but I love understanding where they're coming from.
Yep. We're all looking at things from our own unique perspective in life,
Lens.
And the thing that's so
Yes.
weird about that is I read that deal and I'm like, man, if you look at this and you're a stranger and you're just a fly on the wall, you're thinking, man, this one guy must be doing a whole lot to help humanity. He must be doing so much for everybody. And this Eric guy must be a real piece of shit. And then you look at it and you're like, well, wait a minute. I kind of know both of these guys. And that's the exact opposite. So I judge people more on their actions and their true character and their heart than I do on their words, you know? Yeah. And I understand there are I have a lot of friends that get on me. And when I post this interview, I'm going to write on there, there's going to be some language on this episode. If you don't like it, don't watch it.
Screenshot that.
Right.
Use that as the fucking,
I will. That's going to be my screenshot for the cover. But it's like, you know, if you don't like it, don't listen to it. But if you listen to it, don't call me back and say, man, you shouldn't have that guy on there because I don't believe that was appropriate or whatever. I respect your opinion 100%. And I'll tell every single guest that comes on this program before we even hit the record button, you can say whatever you want. I don't really want you saying like racial slurs and crap like that. And I won't let that go. But
yeah, that's fair.
We're roofers, man. You know, like, let's not sit here and pretend that we're out there hitting our hammers. Well, shucks,
it's not even that we're roofers. We're fucking grown-ups.
We're men. We're boys. You know, this is what we do.
Be a fucking grown-up. Here's my big take. I know I did not mean to go down a cursing fucking conversation, but
I opened that door for you and I pushed you in it, dude. That was intentional.
But one of the things that one of my points when I speak to people about this, just in dialogue and whatever, is if you allow words only to offend you and not intent and not context, I feel like that makes you a very weak-minded individual, right? Because intent can hurt, right?
Very much.
If I call you a fat fuck, right? Like, that's hurtful because my intention behind it is to hurt you, right? That is offensive. That can be construed as offensive because I'm literally trying to hurt the feelings of another human being, right? But in the cancel culture bullshit that we have today, if you say just any word, and it doesn't matter whether it's in context, out of context, whatever, then all of a sudden you're the problem. Now, I remember doing I used to act when I was in high school and shit, and I remember doing this play or this like oral interpretation and drama thing, and they were talking about different words and like where origins of words came from and blah, blah, blah. And that at one time, right, there was no language. Fact, right?
Yeah.
There was no language at one time. So someone had to invent the word eggplant. Someone said eggplant. That we're going to call that an eggplant, right? And at the end of the day, that is exactly what that eggplant could be a bok choy, right? Like whatever I want to call it, that is going to be as widely accepted is what the word is. At the end of the day, a word is only a word, and it's a way that we choose to communicate with each other, right? And so if you can't line up the difference between someone intentionally trying to offend and hurt somebody and you letting yourself, because you choose to be offended.
Absolutely. It's always a choice.
Let's not fucking gloss over that, right? You choose to be offended by whatever it is, whether it's language or it's actions or it's whatever. You are the one that makes the choice to be offended, right? There is one thing I can say that in my entire life, I've been hurt numerous times, okay? I've had people say very hurtful things to me in my life. I have never been offended. I don't even know what the fuck that means. Now, maybe that's male white privilege. I don't know. But I don't know what it feels like to be truly offended because why? Right?
That's a great question. That's a life pondering question right there.
Like why choose to let something offend you, right? When it doesn't have anything to do with that. It has to do with, are you being intentionally hurt? Right? Now maybe you were unintentionally hurt, Okay, that's fair, right? Somebody could have said something that they didn't think would hurt you, and it did, right?
Yep.
So what do grown-ups do when that happens? You say, "Hey, Chuck, I don't think that you meant to hurt my feelings, but just an FYI, when you said that, that actually kind of made me feel bad, and that actually kind of hurt my feelings. I'd appreciate if, like, don't say that about me. Like, I don't know, that just felt kind of gross." And you'd be like, "Oh my God, Eric, dude, I'm so sorry. Like, I had no intention of ever hurting your feelings. Like, you know what? I spoke out of turn. Like, my bad." I'd be like, "Dude, get it? Yeah, no problem." You know what I mean? Like,
Yep.
that's dialogue and that's a conversation, and that's what we've lost in this society because everybody is so fucking supplanted on that their opinion and their way is the only way things should happen, that they can't see past, and they can't see that other people might have different paths and different opinions and different belief sets in life, right? At the end of the day, are you treating people well? Are you helping people? Are you doing the next right thing? Or are you fucking people over and only
It
looking out for yourself? If you're on one of those two sides, you're good in my book. And I don't give a
absolutely.
shit what you do and what you say.
There you go, man. Amen to that. I appreciate that so much. So we've been over an hour and 15 minutes here. I told you I was going to try to
Have
make it
we?
be a
I'm sorry.
45-minute show,
Yeah,
but this has been a
sorry.
lot of fun.
This is what
I'm
usually
going to start.
happens.
Yeah, we'll start wrapping it up here a little bit
Okay,
though.
sorry.
Moving forward. Okay. What's your ultimate plan for Eric in the future? You're going to keep the roofing business for the rest of your life? Are you planning on an escape and getting into the other deal? What are you looking, in the next 3 to 5 years? What's Eric's life game plan blueprint that's probably going to get crumpled up and thrown away?
Yeah,
What's it looking like?
that's a really good question. I went back and forth with that. The problem, I don't know how much you know about our company, but like my company is named after my grandfather.
Mm-hmm.
Grandfather started it. I went back and forth on if I would ever sell. Um, at this point in my life, the answer is no. I said that before, and I had looked into it at one time just to kind of see what was out there, just for shits and giggles. But it just never felt right. Um, I want to grow this to a point again that is self-sustainable in the next few years with a couple different offices, making the numbers that I want it to make so that I can focus on the things that I care about. I love the ability to affect people and influence people with my platform, with Be Authentic, and being able to be on shows like yours, to be able to hopefully inspire people and maybe give them an opportunity to change the way that they think and see the world a little bit differently, and give them the ability to figure out how to become the human that they were supposed to be. We were not born to be pieces of shit. And for people that are suffering, whether it's an addiction or depression or whatever it is, we were not born to be piles of shit. And I feel like one of my purposes in life is to be able to help people learn that. And I think that fulfills me, and that fills up my bucket. I love my business. I love my people. There's not days that, doesn't mean there's not days I want to burn the whole motherfucker to the ground. But I truly do. I don't see myself, doing roll ups and all that kind of stuff. But again, you never know. Like you said, that could crumple up and go, right? But I really want in the next 3 years, I want to have more opportunities to affect larger groups of people. The keynote that I did at RoofCon, I want the opportunity to do that on different stages outside of this industry. That's one of my goals for 23. I'll be completely honest. I have no fucking idea how to do that. But I'll figure it out. I'll call the right people and figure out how do I get on different stages that have absolutely nothing to do with roofing. Because again, my keynote at RoofCon had, how many times did I speak about roofing?
Just
Zero.
other than to say that I worked for my
Yeah,
grandfather's roofing company, that
exactly.
was
Yeah, yeah,
it.
yeah. Like I don't talk about roofing, right? I talk about people, and my real goal is to be able to grow that. I've got a goal in 23 to do a TEDx talk as well. So I'm currently working on building that out, and then I want to blow up our show as well, like you are. I mean, I want to be able to reach as many people, and not necessarily for monetization, or whatever, but just to be able to, I want to be able to reach more people. I want other people to be able to see that there's a way out. I want other people to see that there's a different way to do life, and that you don't have to be living in shit. You don't, there's not a ceiling on your future. There's not a ceiling on what you can accomplish if you actually want to. If you don't choose to make sacrifices to do certain things, then it wasn't that important for you to begin with, right? And I think that's something that people forget about. Like
Yeah.
don't just get something because you want it. You have to give something up, and that could be time, that could be money, that could be right. Like there's numerous things that you can give up, but you have to give something up to gain something else. And maybe you can go get that other thing back, right? You can go get your time. You can't get your time back, but you can get the allocation of your time back, right? But you have to give something up and you have to make a sacrifice if you want to have this other thing. So figuring out what that looks like, I like having conversations and helping people with that. And what's weird about it is that, like, dude, I make no money doing any of that shit, right? I don't get paid for consulting. I don't get paid for speaking right now. I don't get paid for my fucking podcast. I don't have sponsors. I don't, everything comes out of my fucking pocket and my time, right? That doesn't mean there's not a goal to get paid eventually down the road, but like, I don't charge people. You get phone calls all the time. You know what I mean? I get phone calls every fucking day going, hey, can I ask you about this? Can I ask you about this? Can I ask you about this? And I'm like, fuck. Like, I love to, but like, dude, I've only got so much time and I got to make money as well, right? And the smart people that are smarter than me figured out a way to monetize that and didn't feel bad about taking people's money to give them their time, right? I still have this weird thing inside of me that is like, I'm just supposed to help them,
It's
right?
almost like a I'm not worthy type mindset. And I've got the exact same thing. I understand where you're coming from 1,000,000% on
It's
that.
super awkward because the minute you charge them for it too, you become accountable.
Yep.
And
Yeah,
if they
that's
don't
true.
implement, and if they don't implement what you told them to implement, and then they fail, they come back and be like, "That fucking Chuck's a piece of shit.
Yeah,
He
he's like
taught me
Trump,
didn't fuck.
man.
Yeah,
I was supposed to be rich.
it didn't work. Well, it didn't work because you didn't fucking do it. Like that's the hard part though, because you don't want to feel like you let somebody down, right? So
Yep.
it's the minute you start charging for it, it changes the dynamic. And I'm trying to get okay with that, right? Like I'm trying to get
It's
okay
not a
with that.
bad thing, really, because the truth is the people that are willing to invest a little bit of their own skin into the game are the ones that are going to utilize your stuff, and
Yep,
they're the ones that are going to
yep,
put in the effort.
yep,
I think a lot of
yep,
times the free content gets disregarded, and the truth is it's extremely valuable. It's just not being presented in
yeah.
a manner in which
Yeah.
someone has to invest,
Yeah, yeah, no, I agree. So what's in it for Eric? What's up for Eric for 23 is like, again, I want to do more speaking. I've probably burned through all the industry stages that I can. Like, I mean, I've keynoted at RoofCon. I've basically keynoted at D2D Con. I've spoke at American Contractor Show. I've spoke at, like I've done all these different deals. And for the major ones, like they're not going to have you back. They're not going to have the fucking cursing roofer guy back again to give another speech probably, right? So
yeah.
I need to figure out how to get outside of that so that I can affect more people. And for those of you, I'll close with this too. For those of you that are kind of getting into this world as well, whether it's podcasting or speaking or consulting or whatever it is, uh, one of the things that you have to do, and I have to do it probably monthly, is I have to stop and have a conversation with myself and make sure that I'm continuing to do it for everybody else. And the minute and you have these moments, I know you do, I know that everybody does, where your ego fucking comes up and you're like, am I doing that one for me so that people see me, or am I doing
Hmm.
it because I want other people to get some help and learn something from it? And I have to check myself because there might be something that goes out. I'm like, that one was for me. Fuck. All right. Yep. Check it. Check it. Check it. Like I have to check it because the minute that you stop doing it for other people is when either A, you'll fail eventually, or unless you're certain fucking people in this industry, but
Right.
but you'll become a version of yourself that you don't that you never intended and didn't want to be, if that makes sense, right? I
It
think,
makes perfect.
yeah, people need to watch that, and because I do, right? I know it about myself. Like I've got a fucking ego, right? And if I don't check it and keep it in line, then I'm not doing what I said that I wanted to do.
Yep. That's it, Dan. Wow, that was brilliant right there. I'm sorry that it was an hour and 24 minutes in that brilliance was. A lot of people are going to probably check out.
The rest was shit, but
All
like
right,
that.
yeah, we saved the good for the
good.
end. That's how that works.
And that's why you do clips. That's why you put out 2-minute clips.
That's exactly it. Yes. I got to get people to the end of the brilliance to see it. So, two final questions. All right, number one is going to be. My goal for what we're doing right now today is to get more people outside of our industry involved in roofers in recovery and to help as many people as we can through that. I've interviewed a lot of people who have been in similar situations that are doing similar things. And I think we can maybe get some more people involved here. So what if someone's watching this and they're like, man, I love what this guy's doing. This is amazing. I want to be a part. I want to follow it. I want to contribute. I just want to support it. What are the best channels to make that happen?
So if you just want to donate, which is great, we love donations. If you just want to donate, you can go to roofersinrecovery.org or roofersinrecovery.com, and there's a donate button right there at the top. That's amazing. If you are a contractor, if you're in the space and you want to actually be involved, and you're not an alcoholic, then sign up for National Roofers in Recovery Day, right? Help us on National Roofers in Recovery Day. I'm also filming a documentary. I have Lexi filming a documentary, and we're highlighting some people that we sent through treatment and telling the story about roofers in recovery, and some other people. It's called Dear Addict. And so we want to have footage from all these roofers in recovery days to be able to put into the documentary as well. So when we release it in the next year or so, we're able to highlight those people that participated and were part of what we were doing. If you are in recovery or you need to be in recovery, then you need to reach out to one of us online. You either look me up on Facebook, Instagram. There's not another Eric Oberempt in the world, so it's fucking me if you find an Eric Oberempt.
That's authentic as it could get right there.
That's all. There's just one of me. But you reach out to me, Paul, Larry Richards, Chris Cox, Robert Ramos, all board members for Roofers in Recovery. Reach out to one of us and come join one of our meetings. Because at the end of the day, man, we just want to help more people. And if that just means getting you to one of our meetings so that we can try and help you get plugged into your community, then there's that, right? We're also setting up something that I do for my business and that I urge other businesses to do if they really want to support Roofers in Recovery is we set up a deal and we educate our clients about the service work that we do in the industry, and that one of the largest parts of our service work is giving back to our industry and the people in it in Roofers in Recovery. And a certain percentage of our profits of every job goes to Roofers in Recovery. And so we're setting up monthly donations that you can sign up for on our website. Kim's setting that up right now as we speak, if she hasn't already, so that people can sign up to do that. So we donate a certain percentage of our profits. So at the end of the year, if we have a great year, then Roofers in Recovery had a great year, right? And we know, to be clear, we know there are so many things to give to right now. And the question is like, well, why is your shit important? Right? Why is your shit more important than kids fucking dying in Uganda or whatever? Right? Like there's 8 million different nonprofits and things that need money and need help, right? And what I would say is that this industry has given you so much, and this industry has given you so many opportunities, right? It has given me so many opportunities. It's the people inside of that industry that have given us those opportunities. And there's so many people that are struggling right now. And it is our duty to help those people. It's our duty to put those families back together so that they can continue with their lives, right? Save our industry, level it up so that there's good people in it, and we get rid of that stigma that the entire industry is a bunch of drunks and cokeheads.
Thank you. That's what I want. I'm sick of being in that group that 99% of us don't even fall into. And I think It's hugely important. You guys are going to change the world, and anybody that's watching this, like I said, it doesn't have to be a contractor. Do this. We all know somebody, everybody in life. My cousin, was addicted to cocaine when I was a little boy, and, he's no longer with us. I know a lot of roofing people that just didn't make it through. So very commendable. I appreciate that. And I highly encourage anybody. I'm going to donate myself.
Thank you.
One thing to end this show, I always go with something kind of stupid to end.
Is this the second question?
This is the second question. This is the hardest hitting question of the entire interview, right?
Okay.
Here,
I'll be the judge of that.
All right, my friend. So where do I need my golf score to get to be able to get on the links with Eric Oberembt and actually not get my ass completely handed to me and made fun of and made to feel bad?
That's two different questions. So
okay,
the first question was, what do I have to shoot to get on the course with me?
Uh-huh.
I give 0 fucks what you shoot.
All right.
You just can't be slow.
I'm not slow. That's one thing.
There is nothing that drives me more crazy than slow fucking golfers. And somebody that's 9 strokes into a fucking hole and they think they still need to keep hitting the ball. Pick the motherfucker up, move on to the next hole. That shit drives me crazy. So I give 0 fucks what anybody shoots as long as you're fast. I mean, I played golf with Paul, and there is not a more garbage golfer in the fucking world than Paul Reed. And he will absolutely admit to that. It's the most embarrassing thing to watch in the world. He's like such a great man at everything else that he does, but that motherfucker cannot hit a golf ball to save his fucking life. And I golf with him. So that doesn't matter. Just don't be slow. Second part of the question is, what do you have to shoot to not get your ass kicked? I mean, is that the goal? You want to kick my ass?
No, I don't want you to kick my ass. That's the goal.
Be a single digit. Be a single digit handicap.
Nah, I'm screwed then. No worries. We'll just go out and have fun. That's the way I like to play. I played at the PGA course over here. The first round I played in 20 years was at the PGA. And
nice.
I didn't belong there at all. But I've got some clubs and I've been practicing. I got a couple birdies in me now. And
nice.
I'm going to make it my goal over the next year. I'm going to get halfway respectable. And I'm coming back to you in a year and I'm going to be like, Eric, let's go play some golf.
Let's go. I'm in. Anybody wants to play. That's it. But this I'll close with too. If you want to learn the character of a person and whether or not they can be your friend, play golf with them.
Exactly. Because we've always said when you're interviewing people for your job, is it someone you'd want to spend 18 holes with? And is it someone you'd want to leave your children with?
4.5 hours in a cart. You learn a lot about a human, and watching whether they fucking kick their ball out a little bit to get a better lie when they're playing tells a lot about a human.
Does it though? I mean, is that what we're going to judge people on?
I do.
I don't want to be judged on that. I feel like I'm a good guy. I never leave a shopping cart in the middle of the island, but I might use the foot wedgie on occasion.
If we're competing.
Okay, yeah. I never compete,
Like
I'm the dude that'll
if you're posting a score, and you're going to get done and say I shot 85 or I shot 74 or whatever it is, and you're going to tell people that's what you shot, but you kick the fucking ball out a little bit, fuck you didn't shoot.
Yeah, that's okay. I'm with you on that because I thought, oh damn, I'm completely disqualified now because I'm not going to lie.
If you're just going out to fuck around and have fun and you're not keeping score necessarily, and you know what I mean, like you're not trying to, say at the end of the day I shot 78, because there's such a fine line between 75 and 81, right? And it's those little things that change that number. But man, if I tell you I shot 75, you went, oh fuck, that was a good day. If I tell you I shot 82, you'd be like, well, whatever, that's what you did.
Right. Funny how that works. Well, that's my goal for the next year. I think we've covered a lot in this hour-and-a-half episode. Eric, I appreciate you very much. I'm going to find you at RoofCon. IRE. RoofCon was last year. I'm going to find you guys at IRE. I want to meet Paul Reed, and I'll be there with my buddy Clint Koppel this coming week. So I'll see you guys there. Everybody, thank you for watching. IRE is going to be like a month in the rear view when this comes out.
Right.
So
that's fine.
I never take those things into account. I started banking a bunch of episodes, and I didn't think about that, but we had a blast. It was awesome meeting you and Paul over there at RoofCon. And that was a lot of fun that we had over there doing whatever that was we did.
Right.
So thank you, Eric. Thank you everybody for watching Keeping It Rio. This is episode 108. And that's pretty much all that's left to say. This has been an amazing interview. I've enjoyed it tremendously.
Hey, just remember, be authentic.
That's it. Out. If you can't be authentic, you know where the door is, fellas. So keep on keeping it real. We'll see you guys.